Pretty funny twist of fate. I was gonna make a vlog of me opening up the gym and kind of coming in like small business owner opens gym sort of thing. And I pour my coffee. I decided against it. I go to the back gym to open up the thing, and we got a new bike lock on there. And I'm like, okay, I don't have the key code. One of the coaches put it on, but I'm assuming I have an idea of what some of these ones are. I try all the ones, nothing. I hit up Tim. He's like, oh, it's this. Try that, nothing. So I can't even get into my own gym, but that's okay. What I'm going to use this as is just it's not the end of the world. Obviously, I'm frustrated, but I've got a gym up here in the front that I could train in, and it'll be a nice opportunity to do that. It won't be that long until we get the problem solved. And we've got a system now that we need to fix. So it's a great opportunity for identifying those things. Great opportunity to check out the Allegiant promotions on the monitor here. Little golden ticket. Make it so good they would feel dumb to say no. And basically, we've got people paying us for a high conversion offer, $99 with a 60 to 70% conversion on that intro offer, folks. Compare that to a 1 week trial, it's about 30%. On a good month, more like 20 to 30. Just finished Dan Kennedy's amazing 300-page banger of a book, The No BS Guide to Ruthless Management of People and Profits. I immediately sent it to one of my buddies who owns a small business because it's so practical. All of the things are servants to marketing. Surveillance and holding people compliant, your staff compliant to your program. Your program is like your way of doing things. Move over here. It's like, hey, this is how we do things around here. Basically, you know, if people aren't compliant to your program, you get them out of there. And you're just ruthless about having high quality standards and having high standards for the way that you operate and that you do things. He talked about having surveillance in your brick and mortar businesses. So we've got 3 of these things. He's like, you put wall-to-wall surveillance in every single area and you can record everything. From a safety standpoint, it's better for your employees, but also when people are being watched, they perform differently than when they're not being watched. And so if there's a camera over there and one of my front desk staff is thinking about pulling out their own personal computer and doing whatever personal work they're thinking about doing, they're gonna say, well, you know what, I got that camera up there, maybe I shouldn't actually do that. And then you can also see how are people working when you just tap in. Are they greeting customers? Are they answering the phone? You know, if I call the landline and nobody picks up, and then I finally hear back from my staff, oh, I was helping a customer. Like, were they actually helping a customer? Not that I don't believe them, but now you can trust, but you can verify. He had this Jim Rome quote that said, poor people have big TVs, rich people have big libraries. You know, I love reading books and I got a big library. When you talk about, you know, people in your influence, your outer circle are the consult of the dead, of people that have written these books, putting the knowledge out there. And when you're constantly reading it and intaking it, you're referencing that in terms of your operating system, right? So I've got Dan Kennedy in my head. I've got Rory Sullivan in my head, you know, Jeff Bezos, whatever the books are that you read, those are things that you can consult if you've got a big library. And that's like a really cool way to think about it. Like, it's not just reading books, you're adding to your cabinet. So I had that big Hormozi post that hit where I made a carousel telling the story about Hormozi coming in and going for my ask and having the happy ending of getting a ticket to the acquisition.com scaling event. And I put it out and it got a lot of traction organically. One of the reps, the gal that I recorded on the voicemail, giving me the ticket and the good news. So she sent me a text message like 10 minutes after I made that post. Ironically, I unsubscribed from some of the acquisition.com email newsletters because I'm ruthless with my inbox. She's like, hey, I can't send you the ticket. So I had to get resubscribed to the email address. So we ended up figuring it out. I'm like, hey, is it just fortuitous that you just hit me up right now? Or did you see the Instagram post that I just made and that you were featured in? And she was like, what post? So I sent it to her and she's like, oh my God, I'm getting emotional about it. She's like, I just sent it to the big man himself. Just sent it to Hormozi. And then like 5 minutes later, my DM started blowing up like, dude, Hormozi reposted it on his stories. And it said like, you know, cool story, swipe to the end to read. And then it just kind of blew off from there. So it's probably at like 80,000 views by now on the carousel post, bunch of followers. I picked up like probably 100 followers so far on my page. Allegiant, you know, probably picked up a bunch too, which is so funny because like in like 24 hours, I just crossed on my YouTube, 100 subscribers. And bro, I've been cranking like YouTube vids for gotta be like almost a year now. And it's just like flatline growth. And I finally get to 100 and then bam, you do it in a day. But like, that's how content works. You know what I mean? So anyways, that was a cool moment. Let's go in front of this promotion monitor. You guys can see how sick this is, right? Look at those graphics. Piercing blue eyes right there. So today's program, practice 4, I was supposed to do weighted dips, but there's no dip bar in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna modify to close grip bench. We're gonna go 7-5-3, and then we're gonna go up for another set of 7-5-3. We're gonna go up in weight each time. And we've got a 3-second pause in the bottom position. And I'm gonna superset that with a bent over row. Come on. So part of what Dan Kennedy's thing is in his direct response marketing framework, it's like he's got his 10 commandments. Basically, it's like there will always be an offer or offers, and only you will put your marketing budget on a strict direct marketing thing where it's you're always measuring ROI, and if it doesn't get ROI, it's out. And so I was like really vibing on that, believing it, still do. And then I watched a Rory Sutherland clip just now, who's another amazing marketer, who's the head of Ogilvy, of their agency. Super, super sharp dude. You watch one of his YouTube videos or lectures and you're just gonna see like, damn, this guy really knows his stuff. And he just had this little bit, he's like, one of the common misconceptions is that you have to measure everything, and if it's not showing or proving ROI, like you have to get rid of it. And he was just like, that's too high of a standard. He's like, measurement is good, but not everything has to be directly attributed back to measurement like that. And that was just a good like point counterpoint for me, because Dan Kennedy's stuff is amazing, and I am gonna lead mostly on the getting the ROI side, but there's other things like the billboard in Santa Monica, for example, that we don't actually get measurable ROI. So Kennedy would be like, you should cut that out and not do it. But like on the content front, on the storytelling front, on the uniqueness of the brand front, on the differentiation front, there's a lot of intangibles that we get from that billboard that like hearing that piece from Rory Sutherland was a really good point. And Rory always brings up this story where he says like, there's a home appliance company, you know, selling refrigerators. And if they find out that the family that they're installing at has kids, they'll bring a little stuffed animal with maybe the logo on a handkerchief of their business, and they'll give it to the kids. And so there's like no ROI on that. You can't measure it, but it's such an awesome gesture of goodwill. It's, you know, getting people talking, and just like, you wouldn't want to not do that, but the people, the bean counters in finance are going to be like, why are we spending, you know, thousands of dollars on these little bears? And kind of missing that magic moment that comes from like good marketing ideas like that. So somewhere in between the two is the correct answer. Another idea I'm pretty excited about. So these long form YouTube vlogs, which I really enjoy making because I can just talk about stuff that I'm interested in without worrying about like scripting and all that stuff, right? If you watch these things, I talk about this kind of all the time. And it's sustainable for me, right? I don't have to sit for 2 hours scripting. And then the editing side, I just kind of put it all together. And the transcription-based editing with CapCut, I can get done with a 15-minute video in half hour to 45 minutes, right? Use ChatGPT to dump the transcript in, right? So you go to Whisper Web, which is OpenAI's model for transcribing. You put your audio file in there, click a button, 45 seconds later, you get your whole transcript. Copy that into ChatGPT, say, hey, write me a YouTube description of this. Hey, help me come up with some thumbnail and title ideas, boom. Now and that's how I've been able to be really consistent with this while maintaining, you know, a busy business and a busy life. The next thing that I'm now thinking about is like, okay, I want to start a newsletter, because when you capture email addresses, that's platform agnostic, right? The platforms could change something, and if we lose our audience, we lose our audience, but an email address you always have. So I want to like start a newsletter, and I'm just kind of thinking like, all right, what value could I add to the audience from the newsletter standpoint? Well, a lot of these YouTube vlogs that I talk about, you know, we're talking about marketing, we're talking about business, and there's like tactical good things in here. So I tried it yesterday. I uploaded the transcript to chat. I said, hey, write me a newsletter based on, you know, this content, and it spits back a really distilled down newsletter with like super valuable insights. And it's written in my tone because it's my transcript of me talking, but I've also, over the last 2-3 months, I've been transcribing my journal entries. I take a photo of my journal entries, I add them to ChatGPT, it transcribes them, and then I make a rolling document, and then I actually feed that into ChatGPT after I've got enough data of like 2 or 3 months, and I say, hey, pretend like you're a highly paid executive coach. Here's some raw data, like give me some feedback on how we're doing, what patterns are you seeing and stuff like that. So I can kind of use it as my executive coach. But it's also learning how I speak and how I write, and I give it that feedback. So it has all this data. So anyways, it comes to writing a newsletter and it's like, it sounds like I wrote it. And I did, because it's me talking. The pace of execution from initial idea to feeding it to like having something that you can ship is so much faster. And it allows you to be multiple places at once when you're not like a professional content creator. I'm gonna use these vlogs, which I'm pretty much, scheduled out for a month and a half in advance every Sunday is when they drop. Let's just say 4 videos. I'll do the whole transcription thing. I'll make a newsletter, but I'm gonna do it monthly, and I'm gonna distill it all down into one newsletter. So I'll pick the best chunks. So when you get that newsletter, it's like, okay, this only comes once a month. It better be worth it, and there better be some good stuff in there. And the more kind of like tracks I can write and distill it into one volume, I feel like it's gonna be a much more potent newsletter that's gonna have a chance of competing against all the other really good newsletters that are out there. Using that workflow helps you document and not create. So both are good. You don't have to choose one over the other, but there's a lot of value just by the things that I'm documenting that the audience can get something from. And it's easier for me to be able to ship stuff. And like, it allows you to get over the craftsmanship, let's just label it perfectionism, or trying to do something really good, because you have to make something good to ship it out in the market when there's just this tsunami of content that's always coming. And so it's like, yeah, sure, you can just put stuff out there all the time, but if it's shit, nobody's gonna pay attention to it, right? And you're gonna negatively impact your brand, because it's like, oh, that guy just puts out random shit that's never of any value. So taking that extra time to be able to figure out like, okay, what is that value? How do I craft it? And if you're documenting and you're filtering through that, like what's in it for the audience, are they gonna be able to get something out of this? Can I put my own unique spin on it? And then can I, because you're not a professional content creator, if you're a business owner, right? And you're just trying to tell these stories and bring people along for the ride, so they like are interested in your personality and the your wins, your losses, but also you're able to teach something and pass something on. You can do that now with these tools in like a really fast, organized way, and hack your way through it. Like, just start taking action, start trying, sketch it out on paper, come up with a good enough idea. But then when you start taking action, you're gonna learn faster, and it's gonna help you course correct more quickly to end up steering into a thing of like, okay, I thought that was gonna work, but once I tried it, like it didn't actually work. So then I tried this thing and I just kept trying and trying. And then once you get a couple under your belt, you're gonna like streamline your workflow a little bit more. And then it just becomes like a whole lot more natural. Let me walk you through the coach card system here, right? That is an iPhone photo using cinematic mode. I put the coaches in the coaching jacket. I stand where the light is the natural light, so it's all natural light. You can kind of see it hitting that side of his face, casting a cool shadow on the left-hand side. Make sure they're smiling, because people want to see smiling faces. I snapped the photo, and then I made the template that's like based off of vintage baseball cards. And so it kind of has that athletic heritage feel, which is true to our brand, but it also serves a functional purpose as well. We've got no one regrets being strong. You can see some textures here as well. Like, look at this kind of like vintage texture here. You've got the plastic wrap over it, right? This little thing, like it's a baseball card. And then you've got the paper, if you can see, but it looks like, you can't really see yet. See how it's got like little paper things? So you've got those little like textures on there. What I'll do, I'll put all the coaches in that position. You've also got some really cool color in the background here, so it looks super interesting. I snapped the picture. I've made the template. I upload it to my freelancer. He creates the graphic. I just give him the first and last name. I tell him which location they're from. Bam, he creates a graphic. He floats it up there, and we're done. In the past, I would have been the bottleneck of making the graphic, of uploading this, of that, and I pay this guy $5 an hour on freelancing, and he does a better job than I could do on my own, and it's getting done more quickly. This is building systems. This is just a small example of a system, but when you start ironing these things out, of course I could do it, but it's not the best use of my time. And then think about it as an investment. Small time saved now compounds. You don't have to do that again in the future. Somebody else is gonna do it. They're gonna be better at doing it than you. And it's a little micro example of now how you can build macro systems. So when you're constantly like thinking like this and you're doing these things, that is making you a better systems builder, which is making you better at scaling. So it's not just making a graphic, it's the philosophy and the mindset behind it. So let's talk about this golden ticket. A 2-week strength and conditioning camp. You get a defined amount of time and you get something from it. Golden ticket, the name plays into nostalgia, and you know it's something special. It includes, and we list out all the things that include: injury prevention screen,
personal training, nutrition consultations, body composition tests, 4 classes, only 99 bucks. High packed value, white glove experience when they come in for the personal training. It gives our coaches a better chance to kind of explain the program, explain the nuances, explain the iPads, take down some of the intimidation factor that comes in from coming to a new gym, because now you're one-on-one in a high touch environment with a coach that's gonna be able to explain things to you. You go through personal training, then you go into the classes, you're better set up for the classes, but maybe you find out that you end up preferring personal training. So it's an onboarding experience, but it also introduces you to our 2 different services, and it shows you the nutrition aspect that we have as well. So maybe you end up liking personal training, bam, you've got an off-ramp onto the personal training side. Or hey, you prefer the classes, bam, you end up going to the classes. And people are paying us 99 bucks for this thing, right? So we're getting paid to acquire customers, as opposed to just give away a free 1-week trial. People come in on the trial, but and 20% will convert, but you pay attention to what you pay for. So though it's only 99 bucks for all that value, we retail personal training sessions at 100 bucks a session baseline minimums, and people associate personal training with high value, and I know that when they're coming in, so we give them this amazing offer. They say, oh my God, that seems too good to be true. It's exactly what you want. And it's not necessarily giving away all that value. It's like, I know that we can steer them into PT, or we can steer them into classes, and I know it's a high converting thing, and I know that we have a more nuanced product, so this might be a better atmosphere for sort of sales and feeling more comfortable for people, right? So all of that is packed into that intro offer. All right, we shall overcome. So what us business owners do, right? So turns out the lock that was facing out, I was doing the code that he was saying to do. I'm like, dude, it's not working. He's like, that's what the code is. So I'm like, all right, I don't know what happened. So I go and I find the instructions. I start locking the thing, and then I realize that the back of the lock on the other side, so it was facing the door, that's where you're supposed to put the key code, and it's actually different numbers. It doesn't mirror it perfectly. So anyway, so we got that solved. Don't worry, I got some biceps and triceps. Now we'll finish out our conditioning here, and we're on to solving the next problem. Keep your head cool. Don't freak out. Find a solution. Find a way. Problem identifiers and problem solvers.